Opening shot, a faded, sepia-toned photograph of a quaint, slightly worn public library. Text overlay, Cedar Creek Public Library, S. 1912. Narrator, V.O. Cedar Creek, Ohio, wasn't the kind of place that made headlines. Tucked away in the Rust Belt, it was a town where generations stayed, where everyone knew everyone, or thought they did. Its rhythm was slow, predictable, measured by the chimes of the old clock tower and the turning of pages at the Cedar Creek Public Library. And at the heart of that quiet rhythm was Eleanor Vance. Fade in. A quiet, sun-dappled morning in early autumn 2003. Leaves are just beginning to turn. Eleanor Vance, 38, is seen walking down a tree-lined street. She's dressed neatly in a sensible skirt and blouse, carrying a canvas tote bag. Her posture is erect, her expression serene, almost serene to the point of being unreadable. She has kind, observant eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. She nods to a neighbor watering flowers, a small, polite smile. Narrator V.O. Eleanor was a creature of habit. Every morning, Monday through Friday, she'd leave her immaculate bungalow on Maple Street at 8:15 a.m., walk the 7 blocks to the library, and be at her desk by 8:30 a.m., ready for opening. She wasn't aloof, but she was private. Her world revolved around the Dewey Decimal System, the hushed whispers of turning pages, and the scent of old paper. To many in Cedar Creek, Eleanor was simply the librarian, an anchor in a world that occasionally felt adrift. Montage: Eleanor performing her duties at the library, shelving books with meticulous care, helping an elderly patron find a specific title, gently shushing a child, meticulously stamping due dates. The library itself is old but well-maintained, with tall wooden shelves, large arching windows, and a worn but comforting atmosphere. We see her interaction with Susan Albright, 50s, a friendly, slightly more talkative library assistant, sharing a quiet laugh. Narrator V.O. Eleanor loved the library, truly loved it. She knew every book, every patron, every creak in the old floorboards. Her life was orderly, uncomplicated. Her evenings were spent reading, tending her small garden, or listening to classical music. She didn't chase excitement, she cultivated peace. But even in the most predictable lives, tiny cracks can begin to appear, almost imperceptibly at first. Shot: Eleanor is at her desk late afternoon. She's looking intently at a large, leather-bound book, an old local history of Cedar Creek. She seems unusually focused, almost worried. Susan approaches with a stack of returns. Susan. Everything all right, Eleanor? You've been staring at that old Cedar Creek history all afternoon. You'd think you were trying to decipher ancient runes. Eleanor, without looking up, a faint furrow in her brow, just rereading a passage. About the old Tanner property out past Miller's Creek. There's a discrepancy in the dates of its abandonment, and something else. Susan, oh, what's that? Another forgotten town legend. Eleanor. Looks up, a flicker of something unreadable in her eyes. No, just a feeling. As if the book is telling a different story than the one printed on its pages. Anyway, don't mind me, I'm just being fanciful. Shot: later that week. Eleanor is locking up her bungalow. She pauses, looking over her shoulder as if sensing something. The street is empty, the autumn evening quiet. A subtle shiver passes through her. She shakes her head, dismisses it, and heads inside. Narrator V. Oh, those small moments, barely registered by anyone but Eleanor herself, were the first whispers of a storm. A book she'd been particularly fond of, an antique first edition of local folklore, went missing from her desk. She'd mentioned it to Susan but dismissed it as misplacement. Then there were the phone calls to her home's silent hang-ups, sometimes late at night. She grew a little quieter, a little more distant, even for Eleanor. Susan, her observant colleague, noticed the subtle change in her friend's otherwise unyielding routine. Shot: the Cedar Creek Public Library, early morning. Susan Albright arrives, unlocks the door, and steps inside. She's early as usual. She looks towards Eleanor's desk. It's empty. She checks her watch, frowns. Eleanor is never late. Narrator V.O. Tuesday, October 7th, 2003. A date etched into the collective memory of Cedar Creek. Eleanor Vance didn't arrive at work. 8:30 a.m. came and went. Susan called her home. No answer. By 9 a.m., a cold dread began to settle in. This wasn't Eleanor. Not ever. Montage: Susan frantically calling Eleanor's home, then the police. Detective Mark Olsen, 45, arrives at the library, a weary but professional air about him. He interviews Susan, looking grim. Shots of Eleanor's bungalow, neat, curtains drawn. Olsen and another officer approach the front door, knock, no answer. They eventually enter cautiously. Inside, everything is pristine, no signs of forced entry. Eleanor's car is in the driveway. Her purse, keys, and wallet are on the hall table. It's as if she simply walked out and vanished into thin air. Narrator VO Detective Mark Olsen, a Cedar Creek native, knew the town and its people. He knew Eleanor Vance. The absence of any sign of struggle, any forced entry, any note, made her disappearance all the more baffling. It wasn't a runaway, it wasn't a robbery. It defied every conventional explanation. Shot. Olsen is in Eleanor's living room, looking around. The room is tastefully decorated, filled with books, a comfortable armchair. He picks up a bookmark from a novel on a side table, a pressed autumn leaf. He sighs. OLSCN. To a uniformed officer, nothing, no signs of anything amiss. It's like she evaporated. Check her phone records again. Talk to every neighbor, every library patron, every single one. Montage. Police officers canvassing the neighborhood, showing Eleanor's photo. Residents shaking their heads, looking worried. Susan tearfully talking to a local reporter. Flyers with Eleanor's face appearing on lampposts and storefronts. The Cedar Creek community, initially shocked, begins to buzz with whispers and speculation. Narrator VO, the initial investigation was thorough, yet fruitless. Every lead withered. No suspicious vehicles were seen. No strange visitors reported. Her bank accounts were untouched. It was as if Eleanor Vance, the meticulous librarian, had simply ceased to exist. Days bled into weeks. The autumn chill deepened, mirroring the coldness of the case. The posters, once vibrant with hope, began to fade and curl at the edges. Shot. A Greyhound bus pulls into the small Cedar Creek bus station. Sarah Vance, 36, Eleanor's younger sister, steps off. She looks tired, worried, and out of place in her city clothes. She pulls a small suitcase. Narrator VO, 4 weeks after Eleanor's disappearance, her younger sister, Sarah, arrived from Chicago. Sarah was everything Eleanor wasn't. Outgoing, vivacious, a city dweller. Their relationship had always been complex, marked by differing personalities and geographical distance. Now, a profound guilt gnawed at Sarah, guilt over not calling more often, not visiting. Shot. Sarah sits across from Detective Olsen in his sparsely decorated office. Her expression is a mix of grief and fierce determination. Sarah, you're telling me you have nothing, Detective. Absolutely nothing. My sister just vanished. Eleanor doesn't just vanish. She had a routine, a life. She was careful. OLSCN, Miss Vance, we've exhausted every avenue. We've brought in state resources, checked every database. Without a body, without a single shred of physical evidence, we're at a standstill. I understand your frustration. Believe me, it gnaws at me too. Sarah, voice trembling, but what are you doing? Are you just giving up? Is that how it works in a small town? One of your own just disappears and you just shrug. OLSCN, no, Miss Vance, we don't shrug, but resources are finite. We keep a file open. We follow up on anything, no matter how small. But without new information, shot. Sarah walks through Eleanor's empty bungalow. It feels colder, more silent now. She picks up a framed photo of herself and Eleanor as children, both smiling, sitting on a swing set. She clutches it to her chest, tears welling in her eyes. The house, once a testament to Eleanor's orderly life, now felt like a mausoleum. Narrator VO, Sarah stayed in Cedar Creek, determined to find answers. She haunted the library, talking to Susan, trying to piece together Eleanor's last days. She walked Eleanor's familiar routes, peered into the quiet corners of the town, looking for ghosts where there were only shadows. The town's initial sympathy began to wane, replaced by hushed theories. Had Eleanor run off with a secret lover? Had she tired of her quiet life? Sarah knew, with a certainty that chilled her to the bone, that these whispers were wrong. Eleanor was incapable of such deception. Montage, seasons change. Winter snow blankets Cedar Creek, then melts. Spring flowers bloom. Sarah, still in Cedar Creek, looks weary, aged by the relentless search. She's seen placing fresh flowers at a makeshift memorial outside the library, next to Eleanor's fading missing person poster. Narrator VO, the calendar pages turned mercilessly. October 7th, 2004. A full year had passed since Eleanor Vance disappeared. A year of unanswered questions, of Sarah's agonizing vigil, of Detective Olsen's quiet frustration. The case had grown cold, the files gathering dust. Cedar Creek had tried to move on, but a shadow remained, a subtle reminder of the quiet librarian who simply vanished. Hope, once a flickering candle, was now a barely perceptible ember. Shot inside the Cedar Creek Public Library. Susan Albright is behind the main desk, processing returns. It's a somber anniversary. She sighs, looking towards Eleanor's perpetually empty desk. A delivery truck pulls up outside. The driver brings in a package, a simple brown box, unmarked except for the address label. Delivery driver, package for Eleanor Vance. Cedar Creek Public Library. Susan's eyes widen. She takes the package, her hands trembling slightly. She looks at the label. It's hand-addressed in neat, almost calligraphic script. No return address, just the sender's city. Somewhere USA, the postmark is crisp, dated just days ago. Susan, whispering Eleanor, shot. Susan carries the box to Eleanor's old desk. She slowly, carefully opens it. Inside, nestled among crumpled newspaper, is a book. It's large, leather-bound, its cover worn but distinctive. Susan gasps, her hand flying to her mouth. Narrator, V.O., it was the book. The very one Eleanor had been so preoccupied with in the days before her disappearance. The antique local history of Cedar Creek, the one she'd felt was telling a different story. The one that had mysteriously vanished from her desk. Its return, exactly 1 year to the day, was not a coincidence. It was a chilling declaration. Shot close up on Susan's face, horror dawning. She gently lifts the book from the box. She opens it slowly, carefully, as if it might bite. Her eyes scan the familiar pages. Then she stops, her breath catching in her throat. Susan. Muttering, "Oh my God," close up on a page of the old history book. Pressed between 2 pages, carefully flattened, is a small, dried forget-me-not flower. It's delicate, fragile. Below it in the margin, written in Eleanor Vance's unmistakable, neat handwriting, is a single word, faint but clear. Silence. Narrator, V.O., the forget-me-not. Eleanor often wore one tucked into her hair during the summer, a tiny, personal flourish in her otherwise reserved demeanor. It was an intimate, heartbreaking confirmation. Eleanor had sent this. She was alive, or had been when this book was returned. But then Susan saw more. Her eyes darted across the page, then to the next, then the next. The book wasn't simply returned, it was a message. Montage of close UPS, Eleanor's handwriting in the margins of the history book, not typical annotations but fragments, dates, Oct 10, 3 p.m., Nov 1 a.m., locations. Old Mill Road, Third Bridge, Stone Creek Ravine by the Fallen Oak. Words, watch, listen, red door, no escape. They are cryptic, almost poetic, interspersed with references to the original text of the history book, twisting its mundane descriptions into desperate cries for help. We see images of those locations, desolate and overgrown. Narrator, V.O., the notes were a desperate, ingenious act of defiance. Eleanor, a woman who lived by words, had encoded her plight within the pages of a book she loved. She'd used the very history of Cedar Creek to write her own horrifying, untold chapter. The pages, once a testament to a bygone era, now screamed with a silent, agonizing plea. Shot. Susan, tears streaming down her face, is on the phone to Detective Olsen. Her voice is strained, high-pitched. "Susan, Detective Olsen, you have to come down to the library. Now it's about Eleanor. The book, it's back. Shot." Olsen arrives, his face a mixture of disbelief and grim resolve. He examines the book, his brow furrowed, his eyes scanning the annotations. He recognizes Eleanor's hand. He sees the flower. He feels the weight of the moment. Olsen, muttering, tracing a finger over a cryptic line. The whispers of the old tannery carried on the bitter wind. She's using the text. She's twisting it. Sarah arrives, summoned by Susan, her face pale with shock. What is it? What's going on? Olsen looks up at Sarah, his voice low. It's Eleanor, or a message from her. She sent us clues, hidden in this book. Close UP. Olsen's finger points to a series of numbers and letters, almost hidden in the texture of the page. It's a very specific coordinate, or a reference to an obscure cadastral map. Narrator, V.O., the notes were a complex puzzle, but Eleanor's meticulous nature provided the key. She wasn't simply writing random thoughts. She was weaving a narrative of her captivity, tying it to forgotten landmarks, disused roads, the forgotten arteries of Cedar Creek. Places only a local historian, or someone with an intimate knowledge of the area, would recognize. The clues pointed to specific, desolate spots, far from any prying eyes. Montage, Olsen and a team of state police, guided by Sarah, who has helped interpret some of the local historical references in the book, move through overgrown woods, past rusted-out machinery, following faint tracks. The atmosphere is tense, grim. The search leads them to the outskirts of Cedar Creek, to a forgotten, overgrown area near Miller's Creek. They find a dilapidated, abandoned tannery, its wooden structure collapsing, choked by weeds. It looks like something out of a horror film. Narrator, V.O., the old tannery, a forgotten relic of Cedar Creek's industrial past, long abandoned, miles from any main road, accessible only by a barely there dirt track. The very place Eleanor had been rereading about in the days before she vanished. Shot. Inside the tannery, dust motes dance in shafts of light. The air is cold, still. The police move cautiously. There are remnants of a fire, a makeshift cot, discarded food wrappers, and then in a corner near a grimy window they find it, a small tarnished silver locket engraved with the initial E. It's Eleanor's. Sarah gasps, covering her mouth. Narrator VO, there was no Eleanor, no sign of her body, no definitive resolution, but there was the locket, and the crude evidence that someone had been held here, desperately trying to leave a trace, a breadcrumb trail for those who might come looking. The book had led them to her prison, not to her. It was a chilling, agonizing validation of their worst fears. Shot, Olsen stands outside the tannery, looking out at the bleak landscape, the old book clutched in his hand. His face is etched with profound sadness and frustration. OLSEN, she tried to tell us, she tried so hard, and we were a year too late. Shot, Sarah stands next to Olsen, staring at the tannery, her eyes hollow. She holds the locket. The wind whispers through the dying leaves. The silence is profound, heavy with unspoken questions. Narrator VO, the mystery of Eleanor Vance was far from over. The returned book, a beacon of her final, desperate hope, had confirmed her abduction and captivity. It painted a horrifying picture of her last days, trapped and alone, yet fiercely determined to leave a message. But the identity of her captor, their motive, and Eleanor's ultimate fate remained agonizingly elusive. The book had spoken, but the full story remained buried, a chilling testament to a small-town librarian who vanished, leaving behind only pages filled with fear and a legacy of unending questions. Cedar Creek would never truly forget Eleanor Vance, nor the chilling secret hidden within the worn pages of an old book. Final shot, the old history book, opened to the page with the dried forget-me-not and Eleanor's desperate silence. The camera slowly pulls back, leaving the book framed, a silent, powerful testament. Narrator VO, some stories once written are never truly finished. They linger, whisper in the quiet corners of our minds, a constant reminder of what can be lost and what can remain tragically, chillingly unknown. Fade to black.